Alright, so I've been playing Corepunk's Alpha, and here are my thoughts on it. Alright, so first of all, let's start by explaining a little bit the experience, overall what you do once you start the game, and so on. So, the game starts and you have to choose a class, basically a character. And at the time we had 3 available, basically a tank with a kind of where you use a kind of spear that you can have one attack which attacks a little bit further. You've got the another guy which is more of like a damage dealer, uses a two-handed weapon, two-handed sword, and I guess focuses a little bit more on AoE damage in some way. And then you've got the support, which is a kind of range character that uses some kind of grenade launcher but has like healing abilities and other stuff. So anyways, I chose the damage dealer, and you have your character creation, which is good. It's not incredible, but it's good enough, honestly. And then it throws you into the game. So the game, you spawn in at a portal, and you've got a character that talks to you and explains to you a little bit kind of the world. All of the characters are voice acted, not necessarily voice acted. Some of them are using AI, but honestly, for me, that's fine. I prefer that to not having, a voice at all telling you the story. I think it immerses you a lot more, and it makes you, at least in my opinion, and for me, it makes me pay attention to the story and what the NPCs say a lot more than if it's just written and I have to read it. So I think that's a good thing. So anyways, yeah, they tell you, and they tells you a little bit of the story. Not too much, you spawn there, apparently you violated laws, but because you're unaware of it, there's a whole procedure that you have to go through, kind of, which is basically you stake a paper to someone else in the little village next to it. So anyways, after that you go in and start going towards village. You basically follow a road. Honestly, there's not too much direction as to where you're supposed to go, but yeah, you kind of just follow a road, and on that road you find another character that teaches you about campfires, about how to make campfires, and he gives you basically a campfire. Campfires are basically the only way with consumables to gain health, right? There is no, by default, there is no health regen and mana regen. So once you lose like health in combats and in other ways, there is no way to. The only way that you can heal is by making a campfire and consuming some food or whatever. And the way that it works as well is that the campfire not only gives you a passive health regen while you're on it, right? But it also makes it so that the consumables like foods and drinks are more effective, right? So what they're trying to do with this is just that whenever you're low on health, you put a campfire and then you eat. They don't necessarily want you to eat out when you're not on a campfire, right? So they want you to do that anyways. So then you get to the village, and you start talking to the different NPCs, most of them related to a crafting profession, and all of these basically give you a quest. And again, there's not too much direction for those quests. Some of them do tell you a little bit of different regions where you might find those resources or the enemies that you might have to kill, but that's about it, right? So then here comes the loop that then starts, which is that you're in the village, you heal up, right? They say there are some constant campfires there that you can use, and basically you heal up and then you go explore a little bit aimlessly, kind of. I mean, eventually you start to realize that most of the things that you're looking for the early quests, you do have some things very close to the village, but after a while you do realize that for most things that you are looking for, you have to go west, kind of, from the village. And then basically you go there, you explore, you gather all of the resources you can. You've got herbalism, you've got logging, and you've got mining, basically. And then if you kill certain creatures like boars, wolves, and others, you can also butcher them, and then you get some other resources from that. So basically then the loop becomes explore a bunch, try to get as many resources as you can, kill a couple of enemies, because again, there's almost no regen, and it's not that easy to find you know, to craft campfires, and in my opinion, it should be a lot easier. And you don't end up having too many healing items either, right? So then, if you do have a campfire, then you probably explore a little bit, kill 2 to 3 enemies, heal up, you know, put a campfire, heal up, do the same, and then you probably have to go back to town. So then you go back to town, you again stand a bunch of times next to the campfire, and then you have to go back and explore again. And the thing is, compared to all of the thing is, most of the quests most of the quests from the guys related to crafting, they mostly ask you to craft a specific item, and usually it requires a set of items that you find by gathering. But the problem is that it doesn't work like in World of Warcraft, where for each resource you have the specific kind of gathering thing for it, a gathering item for it. You rather have you have like a tree, a magical tree, which is the logging thing that you gather. You've got an ore deposit, which is another thing that you gather, and then you've got the bushes, which is what you gather for herbalism, right? And then you've got the enemies, which are the ones for butchering. But then each time you gather, there is just, you know, a chance of getting a random item out of everything that you could get from the butchering or from the logging or whatever. So if you're expecting to finish a quest because you need a very specific set of items, it will take a while. So you end up doing this loop of going back to the village and going to exploring quite often, because with one trip or with a couple of trips is usually not enough to finish a quest. So anyways, yeah, that's pretty much the experience. And here I'm going to talk a little bit about what I like and what I dislike about the game. Alright, so quickly let's go. Let's talk about what I like about the game so far. Obviously, it manages to, what they're trying to do with the low health regen, with the no health regen and the low healing items and stuff like that, is give a sense of danger to the environment and whenever you go exploring, right? And in that sense, I do agree that they kind of achieve it, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily feel good. It's quite actually frustrating to to be playing an MMO and not being able to combat, basically, because whenever you explore, you end up fighting a couple of enemies that you're looking for, right, for quests, and then you start just avoiding enemies because you do not have the health for it, right? And you don't have the healing items, or you do, but you rather just wait a little bit or whatever, or you just heal up and you do kill the enemies that you need again. I think you start avoiding again because you're out of things, but you still need a bunch of resources. So you're just wandering around trying to find resources without aggroing enemies, and that becomes quite frustrating. And then you have to walk back or teleport to the village, and with, you know, a kind of Hearthstone like a wall, and yeah. So I was gonna say, I started saying like I wanted to talk about the good things, but yeah, I mean, so I do agree that they managed to get that feeling of danger outside, but it comes with all the bad things. I guess that's my issue. But then I do like the way that the quest system works, the way you're giving quests. It's like close to like a dialogue system. Whenever you talk to the NPCs as well, you can ask who they are, you can ask how they are, etc. And it feels a little bit more alive than most other NPC, other MMOs, which is good. And the fact that it's voice acted, or at least the characters have a voice, even if it's AI, you know, it's good, because at least you don't have to read it, and it feels better, more alive, I guess, and it's a good thing. So yeah, I guess I'll focus now a little bit more on the things that I don't like, and maybe on how we could fix them. So yeah, basically the biggest issue that you come up with this is that the game ends up being very slow and quite frustrating. And as someone said in the Reddit, is you spend most of your time just walking and standing next to a campfire. That's most of your time doing that, and then sometimes you fight, and then you have to go back and walk and go back to a campfire. So it ends up being quite frustrating, and quite grindy. And the thing is, all of the quests are related to gathering some item or require some items that, like I said, are not guaranteed stuff that you gather, right? It's all based on randomness, including a quest that happens that you have inside of the town, which is a guy talks to you and he has a field, right, with some pipes that he uses to irrigate the field, right? And he asks you to repair them, right? But you can't just click on the pipes and repair them. You actually need copper pipes. You need to actually find copper pipes. And how do you find those copper pipes? Well, it is by breaking boxes around town or around the wilderness. And there is a very small chance that you might get a copper pipe. So for some reason, before I got the quest, I already had managed somehow to get 2 copper pipes, but I needed 3 to finish the quest. And I spent, not kidding, maybe 2 hours doing other quests, stepping and breaking every box that I found just to find another copper pipe and to be able to finish the quest. Which is, it was very frustrating and pointless to some extent, right? It's like, if you're gonna do that, at least, I don't know, bump the chance of actually getting it while you have the quest on or something, and maybe just add more boxes, or add boxes that have guaranteed drop of the item around the quest or something, right, to make it less frustrating. But yeah, so basically what ends up happening, like I say, is that you end up just going around, not being able to do much because you don't have a lot of health, you don't have a way to regen too much. So you kill a bunch of enemies, then you have to go back, and because everything is based on randomness, whenever you gather stuff from logging, from, you know, chopping down a tree or whatever, the chance of actually you getting exactly the items that you need is so low that you have to just do it a bunch of times, and it creates this like frustrating loop, which is that you can't. It's not like in other MMOs where whenever you go out, you have a objective in mind. It's like you go out and you want to do, at this specific time, you want to do this quest, and then you go in and you pretty much finish that quest, or very close to finishing that quest usually. And then you go back and you know, and you get the quest reward or whatever. Or you know, once you're already out, you go to a nearby place to finish another quest that you have around. And then you go back to get a bunch of quests. Here, it's not really the case. It's like you're going back and forth from the wilderness to the town. But whenever you go to the wilderness, you don't have a specific quest in mind. You're like, I'm gonna gather items, right? And I'm gonna kill enemies. Okay, you're not gonna kill every enemy. You're gonna kill very specific enemies that you need for the quest, or at least the type of enemies are gonna allow you to butcher them, basically, which are the guys that you might need the resources for crafting. But yeah, you don't have a specific quest in mind whenever you go exploring. You just go exploring and do the thing and hope that you'll get the items that you need. So it's yeah, I don't think that that's the experience that they're like really going for. Like, I understand that maybe playing in a group might simplify things, not necessarily for the gathering of items, because that would mean that you just increase the amount of required items also, right? You multiply by the amount of people you have in the team. And whenever one chops a tree, no one else can drop the tree. So it's not like all of you would be able to chop the tree. So yeah, it wouldn't necessarily help. So how would I kind of fix this whole thing without changing the game too much? So first thing, I think maybe having more guaranteed quote unquote like quest locations for stuff. For me, like having maybe more types of gatherables, right? Instead of just having that one magical tree, and then you forgot the kind of advanced magical tree and all of the gatherings kind of work on the same way, which is you've got the default one and then you've got the advanced one, which I don't really know what it changes. I think you require a certain level of gathering in order to start gathering them, but I'm not exactly sure what makes them different. I mean, I'm assuming you have higher chances of getting higher grade items, but that's basically it. I'm not even sure. So one thing, yeah, I would do is just separate maybe those in a couple of gatherable, not just one tree, but having 2 or 3 types of trees, so that at least, and you know, have them spread in more specific locations in the map, so that whenever you're going for a quest and you need magical leaves or transparent leaves, for example, which is one of the quests that you need, you won't gather transparent leaves from every tree. You will only get them from a very specific type of tree, right? And all of them should get wood, by the way, but that's a different story, because you need wood for campfires, and again, it's very random. You need 3 wood for campfires and an extra item that you have to buy, which makes it a little bit difficult to always have campfires on you, but anyway, that's a different story. So at least if you would have all the different types of gatherables, you would start having more strategy or more objectives in mind whenever you actually go exploring. It's like, okay, I need transparent leaves, therefore I'm going to go to the north because I know that's where you can find those types of trees that drop the transparent leaves. And then you would start having this other kind of strategize. You start to strategize in your mind your path that you're going to take when exploring. Which is something that you do normally in MMOs that you do not do in this MMO at all, because it doesn't matter where you go, you're gonna pretty much find everything you need anyways all around, and it would make the experience a lot better, because by splitting the types of resources that you get from each tree, you also increase the chances of actually getting them, right? And I think that would just fluidify the thing a lot, basically. And the other thing is, I think I also thought that it was unexpected in a way that crafting had such a big importance in this game. For me, usually when I think about MMOs, crafting is nice. It's a nice thing to have, and it's something that you do in the background. It's something that you do kind of passively when playing the game. And I feel like in this case, most of it was about crafting. Like, most of the quests were about crafting, most of the progression kind of was about crafting. And because you can't do combat that often, because of the health issue, then the no regen issue, right? Then yeah, you end up spending very little time in combat, right? So yeah, crafting becomes kind of your main stuff that you do whenever you go out exploring. Or like gathering, at least, which I guess it takes me to the next issue, which is the no regen at all. I think that is, in my opinion, a mistake. Because if you look at how I spent most of the time, is you go out exploring, and you do a couple of combats, and then you spend a lot of time just walking around and just gathering stuff. So if you would have a very small amount of health regen. I understand that they want it to feel dangerous, but a very small amount that it would still take a while for you to regen fully. It would at least make it so that if you spend enough time just running around there gathering, right, which is the other thing you get, at least you would slowly get back to a point in your health where you can start doing combat again, right? So at least it would allow you to spend more time exploring without having to go back to town. And the way that I would do it, in my opinion, is also I would do it in a way that I would do it so that you have a static amount of health regen, for example, 1 health regen that you start with at level 1, right? And at level 1, you know, considering you start with like 300 health or something, 1 is a decent amount, right? It's quite a decent amount. But as you level up and as you start gearing up, that gives you more health, more stuff. That 1 health per second ends up being pretty much unnoticeable, right? It ends up being very, very little. So it would make the early experience better, and it would not necessarily change the later experience, right? and you would still require those healing items. But because you're already played the game more, because you have more experience, because you've got more money, more resources, more, you gathered more stuff, then it's gonna be easier for you to find healing items or to make healing items, right? So it wouldn't be as big as an issue. So having that static health regen and mana regen, by the way, it would allow to make the early experience less frustrating, and it wouldn't necessarily change the experience that they want at later levels. So I think that is, in my opinion, the easiest solution and a good solution as well. And it would also reduce the amount of time that you spend in front of fire, in front of campfires, because the buff from the campfire just add up to the one that you already have by default, which is nice. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about this. I mean, my overall thoughts is that it's interesting. I think it has a lot of potential, but they have to really change a little bit how they see the early game, because it's very slow. I think it's too slow. I think most people, if you look at the Reddit, most people complain about that. It's just too slow, and it ends up being frustrating. And again, I think if they don't manage to get, they really should try to manage to get that feeling of the player creating some kind of logic whenever they go exploring. Like the fact that whenever you go exploring, you have no logic. You just go to the west and you explore the west, and that's it, right? It becomes like boring and repetitive. But if instead, by either doing the separating the different gatherables or whatever, they manage to make it so that at least whenever you go exploring, you have an extra thought as to, okay, where should I go exploring? Okay, so I've got these quests. That means I should probably go to the north and explore the north first, because I've got these other quests. And if I finish the north, then I'll go further west, but like to the northwest, because it is early, because it's close to the north, and because I've got these other resources I need to get here. And after that, I'll probably go back to town. And having all these thoughts of like planning what you're gonna do makes the game a lot more interesting. And because you don't have that in this game at this point, you have that a little bit at the beginning, because again, you have some early monsters which are very close to the town. But after that, after you pass that point, you lose that completely. You always go to the same place, and pretty much stop playing now. But if I would continue playing, I would keep doing the exact same thing, which is go to explore the west. So yeah, I think if they manage to get that planning in the player's head again, I think it would improve the experience a lot more. And again, having that passive health regen doesn't have to be very big. If you even think that one health per second is too much, you can even drop it to 0.5. Like I'm level, I reached like level 6 and something, and I had a bit over, I think around 700 health, right? So if I would have 1 health per second, it would take me, if I was at the lowest, it would take me like 700 seconds to heal up, which is a decent amount. But fair enough, you might drop it to 0.5, which I'd be okay with. And it would still allow you to, just by spending time exploring the surroundings and trying to avoid combat, eventually you'd be able to do combat again. And it would, again, be a lot more useful for early levels, because if you start at 300 health, then obviously 0.5 is still a decent amount. But yeah, so there we go. That's my thoughts on Corepunk. Hopefully, I'm still looking forward to this game. I think it has a lot of potential, and hopefully they can fix a lot of the stuff again, because most people seem to be complaining about the same. Hopefully they take the feedback and they do something about it. And yeah, so hopefully they change it, and I'll probably be back if they make another alpha or another beta that I can try out. And yeah, so that was it. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.